Today we're talking about the self-image contract and how are we going to break free from this limiting behavior. Hi, my name is Aslam Khatri. Welcome to the Growth Gap, where we talk about your hopes, your dreams, your aspirations, and as to how are we going to bridge the gap between where you are today and where you wish to be. Now, we started last week a new 4-part series called The Paradigm Wars. What is paradigm? I talked about my own journey. When I came to Canada, went to McGill University, I had to go and register at the McGill, but at the same time, I needed a job working for an accounting firm. Now, somebody somehow or the other told me that nobody will accept me, none of the big companies will accept me, so therefore I should just lay low and apply at a smaller company. And I took that advice without challenging it, without looking further into it, without asking anybody else any question. I just accepted it. And that is what paradigm is. I laid low. I didn't want to do anything that would upset the apple cart. I just wanted to just work for smaller companies because I accepted that no longer would I be able to work for a larger company until I met other international students and found out that that was not true. So that's what we are going to discuss, is the self-limited, the contract, the image that we create for ourselves, and that just stays with us. So what is the self-image contract? Let me ask you a question. Who told you what are you able to do or what you are not able to do? You see, it is not that we went to school. It is not the education. It's not what we are able to do with our hands. It's not the talent we have. It is more than that. It is the mental image of ourselves that we have. Now, here's the good news. That could be reversed, because what it is as we're growing up, as a child, as a student, as a neighbor, as anybody. But what happens is when people tell us certain things, people continue to say, maybe you heard a teacher say, geez, you are not good at maths, therefore you will not be a scientist. Or somebody said, well, you're not a leadership material. And then you just go on and things happen. People say, well, you will never amount to anything else. And then we just automatically accept it. That just remains with us. That remains in our body. We accept it. There's no challenge. We just say, this is what has happened. So that is what a contract is. Now, nobody wrote it. Nobody forced you to write it. It's not the story of Godfather where somebody put a gun to your head and said, write this contract. We just automatically assume it. And psychologists, they call it the self-image contract, where we just accept ourselves as somebody who may have told us something. Just like with me, when I went, and of no reason, somebody told me, he says, yeah, go ahead, apply for the jobs. He showed me how to apply for the jobs. But then he added saying that people like me will not be accepted in larger corporations, in the larger companies. And I accepted it. And that paradigm, that mindset is the contract that we make with ourselves. So that's what is the self-limiting contract. Now, as I said, that this is something that's reversible, because it is something that we took upon, we became. It is something that we adopted But the same way we adopted it is the same way we can basically get rid of it. So here are the three parts that I want to talk about. Number one is what is the three phases, which is one is the limiting contract. Now, what is limiting contract and how does that affect us? The limiting contract basically puts us in a situation which in our own self we say that I cannot do it. As much as you're able to, as much as you are capable, as much as you think you can do it, but you don't do it because this is something you don't want to go to. It is basically the chains that we put on ourselves. It is the bars that we put in front of us, and it is the invisible chain, invisible that we put on our own minds. It is this invisible fence that holds us back. The invisible fence that says, no, you cannot go further than that, even though you know you can. So that's the limiting factor in that image contract. It just limits us. It just doesn't allow us. It's somebody was explaining, it says it's worse than being in the prison, because at least in the prison you know that you are in a physical situation, but these are mental chains. We just put them up on ourselves where we don't know where they're going to take us, because it will not take us anywhere, because it will hold us back. And that is the limiting contract. Now, second phase really is the recognition of that limiting behavior, of that limiting. Now, how does that happen? So first thing is, maybe you're doing something and all of a sudden you're successful. You know, my wife bought a piece of furniture. Now, I am not the one who will ever assemble anything because I am just not capable. We went around looking for people to assemble it. Nobody would assemble it, and I would refuse to assemble it because I am just not capable. I had assumed that that is something that I don't know. Put in a situation where there was no other choice but for me to open the box and start assembling it. I assembled it, and voila, it was done. Only for me to know that I was limiting myself all these years by not touching a piece of furniture that I could assemble. So that is one thing that brings to your mind all of a sudden that I am able to do it. All these years I was just fooling myself. So the first thing is the unknown success that happens. You could be in business, you could be doing something, you could be a runner, you could be running a marathon, whatever you are doing, looking to lose weight, not to drink anymore, not to drink alcohol anymore, whatever that you wanted to do, whatever your challenges were that you thought you were not able to do it, all of a sudden, somehow or the other you get to do it. And that is what happens when unknown success comes to you. The second thing is hearing somebody say it. Somebody says to you, you know what? You are capable. And then you start thinking about it. Maybe it's a team leader who gives you an assignment that you thought you couldn't do. All of a sudden, that brings in the awareness. That brings in the mind that if somebody gave me this assignment to do, which I always thought I was not capable of doing, now I'm doing it. So that's the second item, where somebody just tips you off, say, yeah, you are able. And then you start thinking and you say, wow, yes, I can do it. The third one is by observing someone. Sometimes what happens is we, in our own mind, put those chains. We say, I am unable to do this. But all of a sudden, we see a peer who's exactly like us. For instance, for me, when I was told that no, I shouldn't go and shouldn't look at even applying at the national firms or the international firms. And then I find other people of my country, of other people who went to the school with me, they were doing it. So all of a sudden you're observing other people. They say, if they can do it, I can do it. So that's the other part that becomes so important in recognizing that you have put certain chains on yourself. And the fourth one is the life transition itself. Perhaps you are gone to another country, perhaps something else happens, and perhaps you have met a soulmate, so perhaps you have met a new partner, and all of a sudden you start thinking about all those limiting beliefs are going away. You're starting to think forward, you're starting to think much more, you're starting to think more of your own other stuff that you can do in your life. So there are these effects, these things bring in the awareness, because like I said, this is something that happens, but afterwards, if we can be aware, because awareness is everything. Awareness will bring you back, will let you know that your thinking is totally wrong. So these things will bring awareness to you as long as you're out there. And then when you're aware of it, then what you need to do is you need to renegotiate. That's the third part, where now you must renegotiate that contract. Just like in business, sometimes you're selling a product, it is going at one price, a service, whatever it is, and then things change, circumstances change. And when the things and the circumstances change, what do? We go back and renegotiate the contract with whoever we had this contract with. It's the same way we can contract. We can renegotiate our own contract. We can renegotiate our own life. We can renegotiate our own things. And this contract can be renegotiated. So, how do we do that? One thing that has been is get specific about something. Get specific. What is that you want changed? Contract is written. You got all the numbers, 1 to 10, everything. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're going to do this, you're going to do this, you're going to do this. Everything is specific. So once you have gone to the recognition point, start being specific as to what is that you want to change. Then go and find the evidence. Is it true? Can you change it? Again, a simple word, evidence. But you try it and you find out that you are capable of doing what you thought you were not. And that is good enough, because that is what's going to give you your evidence that you are able to do it. You start behaving as it has already happened. Once your mind, in your own mind, that you were walking with a self-contracting image which was holding you back, then the whole life changes. Everything changes, because then what you're looking at is your mind can see that you were being held back. So now if you're going to start behaving, that mindset will not work with you anymore. You start to live that. You start to behave as if it has already happened. Of course, you're going to expect a lot of resistance, because for all these years, we did things a certain way. All of a sudden now, as much as we're aware, there is going to be resistance. There is going to be days where the mind will still say, oh, no, I'm not going there. It is very difficult for me to do that. So you have to expect the resistance. But once you're aware that there's going to be resistance, that'll help you go forward. And then, of course, what you need is the patience. Once you have the patience, once you understand that this will happen, all the contracts that we wrote within ourselves, all our old self-image, it just didn't happen in one day. It is somehow the other. It is just put on our head. We just go on living with it. Somebody tells something, it sticks, and then we just repeat it to ourselves. It's the same way now to renegotiate that contract, to write a new contract. We need to be patient. And we need to go on doing this again and again and again. So I've always believed, those of you who know my life that I wrote in my book, and I talk about my journey, where I always believed great things about myself. I always believed that I can make my own destiny. And I wrote about that, and I wrote this book, but as much as I knew that I could make my own destiny, as much as I knew that the things that I was going to do were going to be great, this one thing, just one person said to me, do not apply. And I took it for granted. How many of us do that? How many of our dreams, how many of our aspirations, they just die because we decided that whatever a person had said is the gospel. That's the right word. But it's not. It truly isn't. What we need to do is we need to be more open. We need to do more understanding. We need to do more looking around, and you see, if people are gone to the moon, Elon Musk is doing great things. People are doing great things. They're all the same human beings who all came from very, very difficult situations, and then they made it. So why do we carry that self-limiting contract, that self-limiting image in our own mind? With awareness, with patience, with persistence, we can change that. So what I'm trying to say is, if there is something that you feel is holding you back, and let's take this as a challenge. Go out and look at it. You want to run and say, I cannot run? Ask yourself, why not? What is that holding you back? You want to lose weight. You want to get into the business. Ask yourself, what is holding you back? Just because somebody at one point told you you cannot do it, does that mean this is it? So challenge yourself. Take this week, ask yourself a question. That one thing that you want to do, that one part of that contract you want to change, you can do that. So that is the second part of the paradigm as to how we become slaves to something that we shouldn't have been, something that we didn't know, something that just happened, and that just carried and rested in our mind and carried for the rest of our life. So go out and get rid of that. I challenge you. Now, if you know of somebody who needs to listen to this, please forward it to them. If you have any questions, please contact me. Please subscribe to my channel so I can bring you more of this stuff. Till next time, I'm Aslam Khatri, wishing you a great week.